The mistake doesn't announce itself. It waits until you're standing at the peak, breathing hard, convinced you've figured everything out. By the time you see it, you'll understand why winning was just the beginning of losing, and why nobody warned you clearly enough. Because the version of you that climbed here can't survive what comes next, and you won't realize that until it's already too late. Most people think the danger ends when you succeed, that the hard part was getting there, and everything after is just maintenance and celebration. They believe victory validates the methods, that success proves the sacrifices were worth it, that winning means you understood the game better than everyone. But there's a specific kind of mistake that only exists after you've won, one that couldn't have happened if you'd stayed hungry and uncertain. The moment arrives, the deal closes, the company goes public. The thing you sacrificed years for finally, undeniably happens on your terms. The market agrees. Investors celebrate. Competitors issue statements praising your vision. Every metric you were judged by suddenly points in your direction exclusively. And something happens in that moment that feels like relief. The pressure that drove you every single day just vanishes into something different entirely. You're still working hard, maybe harder, but the fear that kept you sharp, that made you question every decision, starts dissolving without permission. The rituals change, not dramatically, just incrementally. You used to arrive first at the office, now you arrive when it's strategically appropriate to arrive. Meetings that used to terrify you become performances you tolerate. The questions you ask shift from genuine curiosity to maintaining the appearance of engagement. There's a conversation that happens about 6 months after your big win. Someone who knew you before tries to tell you something important. They don't lead with criticism. They mention something small, how you don't return calls like you used to, how your emails feel different somehow. And you hear them, but you're also translating their concern into evidence that they don't understand your new reality, that they're still playing small. So you dismiss it, kindly, gratefully even, but you dismiss it, because winners don't have time to second-guess the very things that made them winners. The validation doesn't stop, it compounds. Every subsequent success becomes evidence that the first win wasn't luck, that you've discovered replicable excellence absolutely. The people around you shift too. The ones who challenged you get replaced by ones who execute your vision without asking uncomfortable questions. And that feels efficient, professional, like you've finally assembled a team that understands how to move fast and trust the process completely. The numbers keep working. Expansion plans succeed. Every bet you make pays off just enough to justify the next bigger bet immediately after. You start getting invited to speak about success, to share your framework, and in explaining it to others, you become more certain of it. Your methods become doctrine. Your decisions become case studies. The thing you figured out through trial and error becomes the thing you now believe was inevitable. There was a version of you that operated differently, the one who checked every assumption twice because failure meant losing everything immediately and personally. That version asked questions constantly, sought advice from anyone willing to give it, admitted uncertainty because pretending to know would have been actively dangerous then. But success didn't just add resources and opportunity. It subtracted the very circumstances that forced you to stay connected to reality's feedback loops. You used to document what went wrong so you could learn from it. Now you document what went right so others can learn from you. The narrative shifts from "here's what I'm still figuring out" to "here's what I've proven." From exploration to explanation, from question to conclusion completely. And the mistake is already present, already active, but it won't show up in the metrics you're watching until long after escape becomes impossible. The first signal arrives quietly, not a crisis, just data that doesn't fit the pattern. Customer retention dropping slightly, employee satisfaction surveys showing concerning trends. And here's where the mistake becomes visible to everyone but you. Because you've built an entire system that shows you what confirms your strategy. The organization has learned, not maliciously, just practically, that bringing you problems isn't valued the way bringing you solutions that execute your vision is valued. So the information that would help you course correct gets filtered out before it reaches your attention. While you're busy scaling what might already be broken, the reports you receive are optimized for the responses you've trained people to expect. Truth gets translated into language that won't disrupt the momentum narrative. And when you finally see it, when the reality breaks through your filters, your first response isn't curiosity, it's defensiveness about why nobody told you. Most people who recognize this moment still choose wrong. What happens next is the difference between those who recover and those who don't. The problem isn't one thing, it's everything. The customer base you thought was loyal was actually just trapped by switching costs you're about to eliminate accidentally. The competitors you ignored while focusing on vision weren't playing your game, they were playing a different game entirely, and they're winning it methodically. The talent you thought was committed starts leaving. Not dramatically, just consistently. The best ones first, quietly, to opportunities you didn't see as threatening. And the market that celebrated you starts asking questions you don't have good answers for, because the answers would require admitting the strategy was flawed. This is when you understand the mistake fully. Not that you made wrong decisions, but that success made you unable to make right ones anymore. You optimized away every source of friction. The mentors who questioned you, the friends who kept you grounded, the routines that forced reflection and honesty. And you can't just reverse it. You can't unbecome the person success turned you into. The beliefs you internalized don't dissolve just because they stopped working. The same board that championed your vision now openly questions your judgment. Breezed because the results changed and vindicated their doubts retroactively. People start protecting themselves from your decisions, quietly updating resumes, having conversations about you that would have been unthinkable 18 months ago when you could do no wrong. The story changes without your permission, from visionary to cautionary tale, from inevitable to lucky, from genius to someone who maybe just had good timing once. And the personal costs you deferred while winning come due all at once. The relationships you told yourself you'd repair later don't wait patiently for your schedule. Some people at this point get help. Real help. They admit the mistake wasn't tactical. It was believing that winning proved they'd transcended the need for help. They start rebuilding the feedback loops they destroyed, seeking out people who will tell them hard truths, creating space for uncertainty and not knowing again completely. Some downsize deliberately, not as failure but as correction, choosing to build something they can actually sustain rather than something that looks impressive externally. They relearn how to listen, how to question their own certainty, how to value truth over validation, how to be small enough to learn again. But others never recover, not because they lack talent or resources, but because they can't psychologically survive being wrong after being so publicly right. They move on to new ventures carrying the same beliefs, convinced the mistake was execution, not the fundamental certainty that success granted them special immunity permanently. And the cycle repeats. Because the mistake that only appears after winning is believing that winning changed the rules, that you discovered exceptions to reality itself. The truth nobody tells you before you win. Success is just borrowed confidence, and the interest rate is your connection to everyone who keeps you honest. Every person who challenges you is a gift you won't appreciate until they're gone. Every uncomfortable question is navigation data you desperately need but actively avoid. So when you win, when you finally arrive, remember that winning just means you've entered the phase where the real mistakes become possible for the first time. The people who survive success aren't the ones who never make this mistake. They're the ones who catch it early enough, who stay small enough internally. Who protect their connection to dissent and discomfort even when they have the power to eliminate both. Who remember that confidence and certainty aren't the same. Because the mistake that only appears after you've won, it's believing that winning means you're done learning, and that's when you've actually already lost.